Next up is MTN Zakhele, which owns, well, let me go back a step. The MTN Zakhele is a special purpose vehicle, which in turn owns 4% of MTN's shares. The deal was structured in 2010. So we're talking about an entity which has got a market value of around 5.4 billion rand. That's if you take the aggregate number of MTN Zakhele units in issue and you multiply it by the current price. Used to trade on a similar platform like we were talking about. Special purpose platform. It moved to the JSE after some drama where the platform didn't hold up and there were time frames and tradability was allowed, and then it fell over. So you now will have MTN ZBE units on the JSE, so you don't have to worry about that. MTN, of course, though, has been through the bush backwards in the last 6 months. So now what? I mean, you know, MTN's actual price is a function of what the MTN Zakheles are going to trade at. But anyway, let me stop talking. Craig, the 2010 to 2020, is it also a 10-year scheme? I mean, there's a lockup, there are dividends from the underlying?
Yeah, this one matures in November this year.
Ah, matures already now?
Yeah,
okay,
so
excellent.
It was a fairly short deal. 3-year lock-in period, and then for between 2013 and 2016, trade between black shareholders.
Right.
And at the end of the empowerment period, it's likely that Zakhele shareholders will then receive
ordinary
MTN shares in proportion to the number of MTN Zakhele shares they own.
Okay, in proportion. This is key. So what will happen at the end of the period is, unless something changes between now and then, the required amount of MTN shares will be sold in order to settle any outstanding debt, and then what is left over by way of a surplus will then be distributed as MTN shares.
That's right. Well, that's so directors of MTN Zakhele still have some discretion.
Yes.
But that's the most likely outcome.
Right. Now, what becomes then very relevant is that MTN, this thing used to have an aggregate value of 10 billion rand. It's come down to 5.4 because MTN was at, you know, whatever it was, share price, and it's come galloping downwards with all of the drama. So that's what you can see there on your screen now. MTN ZBE, it's only been on the JSE since like November last year, and you can see that it's kind of gone left, down, right, sideways. Today's move, though, will be green, and that's because in MTN's results today, they clarified that they've only made a provision for about $600 million or something worth of potential fine, which is like, you know, only 15% of the supposed fine that they were going to get hit with.
Yeah.
So now what?
Yeah, so the key variables or factors that influence your decision around whether to invest would be whether MTN maintains their dividend.
Right.
And I think they said they would pay at least 7 rand a share.
Yes.
So that's 7 rand is about just under 500 million. Given I think they own about 62 million.
So that
MTN
will be the
shares.
flow through from ordinary MTN into the Zakhele scheme.
Into Zakhele.
Yeah.
They've got about 3.1 billion debt on the balance sheet.
Okay.
And they've got a deferred tax liability. So all those shares, those MTN shares that they bought quite cheap, that have gone up in value.
Okay.
So look, that liability has certainly come down. It was 1.4 billion last year. It's probably a whole lot lower now. So those are your liabilities. So the net asset value sits at about 72 rand a share.
Which is what we saw there. That's kind of where they're sort of trading.
Where they're trading, yes. So it depends on the MTN share price in November.
Yeah.
And the dividends that are received between now and then.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now you can understand why these things are quite tricky, because it's got that optionality in it, and that's quite complex to understand.
Well, that's why it should trade at a discount.
Yeah.
It's to compensate you for that uncertainty.
Yes.
And because you have such a short period around MTN Zakhele, I think that discount should be around 10 to 15% at most. There is this uncertainty with the fine in Nigeria and the impact that could have on the share price. So as a potential investor, I would be demanding about a 10% discount to NAV.
Although it's something that clearly has to be watched quite closely, because you would appreciate, of course, that if anything goes in their favor or against their favor, there could be some quite big moves.
Yeah.
Just to clarify one technical aspect, it's on the JSE, right? But you have to be earmarked on your JSE account at your broker that you are verified as a previously disadvantaged individual.
Yeah.
And that you have to document and verify when you open the account, am I correct?
Yes.
And you can only buy the shares in your account if you have such a marker on your account.
That's right. So you've got to, when you open your account, you've got to ask for the BE contract.
Right.
and then you've got to tell them that you're wanting to trade MTN in particular.
Yeah.
Because there's a different contract for MTN and there's
Wow.
a different one for Sasol and Zala.
Yeah, interesting.
And Sasol be ordinary shares.
Okay, so I'm an MTN bull. We own MTNs in the portfolio. We got to do the hot or not thing now. So how are you going to call it? Hot or not on this one?
Yeah, I'm not hot because, as I said, there's a very small discount
Yes.
after this morning's moves in the market.
Yes.
Look, if MTN goes up to 160, 180 a share, then it's attractive.
Yes, yes.
So I say there's still a bit of uncertainty. So I'm not hot, although I can see this working out
Yeah.
well for shareholders if things go in MTN's favour.
Okay, good. Let's give it a not hot just on account of that sort of overall cautionary. Right.